Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Godzilla Masterclass. I'm really excited today. We're wrapping up this really huge project. We got a lot done. It feels like a huge project, but ultimately we were able to finish an entire animated film in just about like 6.5 weeks. I was looking back and really tallying everything up and trying to see what's realistic, but I genuinely think we'll get into it. I got some really awesome stuff to show you, some really great visual effects breakdowns and showing some awesome techniques to recreate movies just like Godzilla, these blockbuster Hollywood visual effects movies. And I want to show you how you can do it too and really start thinking like a blockbuster filmmaker. Some really cool stuff lined up. I'm seeing all you guys in the chat, seeing Verenatic from Malaysia, but also Copernoun from North Texas. Seeing y'all, welcome from France. Super great to see all of y'all from across the globe. Super cool. Germany. What's up, Vargo? Really great to see all of you. But I would love if you could. I'm gonna make this worth your while. I want to give away all of the biggest lessons I've learned. The whole point that I started the YouTube channel is because I started as a self-taught YouTuber, and I eventually started working in Hollywood visual effects and working in the industry ever since 2017. And like I was born and raised, I feel, on YouTube, and I feel like that is the next generation of filmmakers are like you and me. It's the people doing it themselves, scrapping up together small teams, and these small independent budgets, pushing them to the next level and doing a lot with very little. So if you're like that, if that's what you want to do, if you want to start impressing people and taking your visual effects to the next level, just know that I'm coming from a self-taught place too. We all started knowing nothing, and I hope we can make some big leaps today. I'm super excited. Got a lot of stuff teed up. And a quick story, we'll jump into it, but I actually had an update. We were going to do the world premiere of this Godzilla short today, but literally right now, premiere has been stuck at 99% for the last 40 minutes. I'm not like genuine. So I have an old version. We'll still show you the latest and greatest that I have. I wish we could show that final version. Maybe we'll wrap it up and show you the very final film at the end. That would be awesome. But yeah, super excited. Ethan, Andre, Stark Danto, everyone, let's jump right into the most exciting part, which is the video, the visual effects. Let's do it. Welcome to the Godzilla Masterclass. This is what it's all about, is taking Unreal Engine and really pushing it past its limits. The big topic today, everything I want every single one of you to come away from this presentation with, is how you can make your own films without Hollywood budgets using Unreal Engine 5. So let's jump into it. This is what we're gonna break down to some of these Hollywood level shots and trying to recreate them, not recreate them really, creating shots from scratch. We're really going from idea to final film. Obviously, I'm super inspired by all of the amazing Godzilla movies that have come before. I was, Godzilla 2014 was the reason why I really got my start in visual effects. Was just seeing that in theaters opening night and saying, wow, if they can do it, why can't I? And I started looking online on what are these studios that are making these films, how do they do it, and started uncovering all the layers and trying to figure out if there's visual effects artists out there. I saw a credits list of 300 artists at the end of that movie. If they can do it, why can't I? So without further ado, let's show you what we're gonna make. This is a teaser. Again, I would love to show you the final version, but this is last week's presentation. This is the lead up and some really cool shots of bringing Godzilla to life inside of Unreal Engine. Let's roll this clip. This is all about you. I want to jump right into how you can do this yourself because, like I said, genuinely, the next generation of filmmakers are coming from YouTube. It's going to be from us, like us here in this call. No, make no mistake. It's not coming from the studio system. We can watch it collapse around us. I'm super passionate about this now because I think it's up to us to make and promote our own films, to tell our own stories, to tell the behind the scenes ourselves. That's what I'm doing now. But just in general, this is what we all need to be thinking. If you are an independent filmmaker, independent artist, you want to make a career out of the arts, this is what we got to do. We got to make our own films. We got to do it ourselves, and we got to show how it's done and pass it forward. So I would love to know, how many projects have you guys made inside of Unreal Engine? It'd be really good. Before we jump in, we're going to jump into how to make storyboards and how to make films inside of Unreal. I'm super excited to cover this workflow, but how many people out there, how many projects have you finished in Unreal? So that could be a film, it could be a game. I'm just going to hop over to check the chat here because I want to make sure I can actually read your answer. Yeah, awesome. That's super helpful. James at 0. Totally cool. Well, yeah, this was great because we'll get into both sides. We'll get into the creative side and the technical in just a bit. So yeah, let's jump back into because this is the big question, right? Is as VFX artists, as filmmakers, how do you actually get better at filmmaking? This is the critical question. A lot of people think you get better by watching movies and studying them and going to the cinema, and that's awesome. I love it. Like I just saw Furiosa the other day. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But you do not get better by watching films, at least not where we're at now. We all know that we love films. That's why we're here in the first place. But we need to find a way to make filmmaking faster and easier. So there's two problems everyone faces when you're trying to go down this route of making your own films. And the reality is you always hit one of two roadblocks. It either costs time or it costs money. And this is why I turned to Unreal Engine, is what if you could actually start making films at home from your home machine? And I'm sure a lot of you are coming from different areas, from Maya, from Blender, from Cinema 4D, from Houdini, from all these different walks of life. I just want to take 1 second here before we dive into Unreal. I just want to get super clear on why we're using Unreal for this project. And a lot of people skip over this part, but it's actually the most important factor here, is because I've spent years trying to figure out this workflow for making my own films from home. I've used Maya, I've made films in Maya and in Blender, and every single time I'm doing this, I'm constantly hitting this roadblock, the pixelated wall of death, where you're just waiting for your finished renders instead of actually like creating the entire time. So for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out this workflow. How do you get the real-time feedback of being on a film set, of like being with your buddies, being with a crew of lighters and cinematographers, everyone doing their own role, and actors and sound, everything. And how do you balance that with doing it at home by yourself? It's this constant push and pull, but it just seemed impossible if you're constantly waiting for renders. And the bottom line here is that if we make movies the way visual effects studios make them, we'll never finish them. I've seen so many people take 1.5 years to make a minute-long short film, and we just cannot do that. Like, I'm trying to save you from the 1.5 years of torment and torture when you're halfway through and you're like, do I finish this? Do I put it off? We can avoid all of this if we just work in real time. If we play to the strengths of Unreal Engine, we don't have to make movies like visual effects studios do, where someone else is paying for their render farm and all that stuff. We can use a game engine and do it from home. And whether you have a gaming PC, even a gaming laptop or a Mac, if you have any machine like that, then you can harness the power of Unreal for real. Like, this is what we're talking about. So a couple examples here just to show you what it looks like in action is that we can actually build systems like muzzle flashes and explosions and play to the strengths of game engines, but we can use that and put it in the hands of actors and in the hands of characters. This is what we're talking about, is we need to actually use the advantages of Unreal Engine. There's some really great short films out there that are doing this too. For any of you that want to dive deeper on this, the best one out there is Irradiation by Sava Zivkovic, which is a really good balance of characters and cinematic storytelling. But the bottom line is what's so great, what everyone is now getting their ears perked up when they hear Unreal Engine, is because it can help you make films faster. If you can do it faster, you can do it cheaper, you can do it easier, and you're never going to be faster than real-time rendering. Like, it's not 2 times faster or 5 times faster, it's infinitely faster. You can build entire worlds, and there's no limit on the poly counts. There's no limits on all the things that you add into your scene. There's no restrictions. You can build anything big or small. It could be as small as an alleyway, or it could be as big as the world we're seeing here, or a Godzilla fight scene of him smashing through downtown. So that's really the point here. Is I think a lot of people put their own restrictions on what you can do in Unreal, but the bottom line is it's just like any other software. We're just making animations, whether it's stylized, like you're seeing here, another great film called The Voice in the Hollow. Yeah, it could be stylized, it could be photorealistic. It runs the whole gamut, and it's even being used on Love, Death, and Robots. So yeah, it's being used at the studios every day. More and more people are seeing exactly how powerful it can be. And this is the Netflix episode, if you're looking for it, from Love, Death, and Robots, is In Vaulted Tombs. That's another great one if you want to really see what the best of the best is out there. And then obviously we can also work in virtual production. That's the other great side. And the coolest part about Unreal Engine is if you learn the system, if you learn the engine in the first place, everything plugs in to Unreal Engine. The word plug-in is perfect for Unreal, because learning virtual production, that part of Unreal, you still need to learn that same core skill set. And then it's very easy to attach on the virtual production skill set or the motion capture skill set or whatever it is for the project you're trying to build. But we need to really figure out, how do we make films with the core of Unreal Engine? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So it's going to be great for freelancing, working on set, all that good stuff. But the bottom line is let's just jump into it. I'm done with all these slides. This is an old presentation. I just want to jump right into the good stuff. And just so you can see out here as well, just to show you what some of the students have done in the past. For the Dune Masterclass, this was a great piece of student work from Gal Ravital, who built an entire world. He followed along just like this, except for our Dune Masterclass like 2 months ago. And he was able to build this after following through step by step. So I'm telling you guys, I'm trying to give you the best stuff. I'm holding nothing back. I'm giving you all the cheat codes to build really cool stuff. You just got to do it. You just got to implement it yourself. So without further ado, let's do it. Hollywood level films in visual effects. With whether you're a beginner or whether you've done this before, let's jump into it. Man, there's lots of slides. Let's do it. So, how to make your own films without Hollywood budgets using Unreal 5. So here are our chapters for today. Well, we're going to kick it off with what I'm super excited about. I don't see people talking about this side of the workflow, is how to go from just an idea to a final film. How do you go from just words on a page to Unreal Engine, to making films, even if you're not an animator? It can be kind of daunting if you've never done it before, or it's still your first or second time. I put a lot of thought into what is the right workflow for this. I want to save you lots of attempts, lots of failed attempts that I've already done that you can learn from me. But yeah, we'll go through the filmmaking workflow on how to go from idea to final film. We'll also break down some really great techniques for filmmaking to make that faster and easier, how to use vehicles, how to animate things super fast, and some of the cheat codes there. And then we'll also dive into some of the Hollywood visual effects techniques, some of the things I learned on movies like Godzilla versus Kong and Star Wars and all those great stuff, all those big movies. It's the same techniques I'm applying to here, and I want to share those secrets. And it's the same exact techniques. All of this is available using free software. Everything you're seeing here done today was made using completely free software. So yeah, we'll end it with the skip the 90% of artist skip, how to composite your shots at a Hollywood level. But let's kick it off. How to go from idea to final film, how to start as a filmmaker using Unreal 5, even if you haven't done it before. So a really critical thing here as we kind of progress here is I want to share my framework to become a better filmmaker faster. A lot of wasted time can happen. And one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people make is that they just jump, like they're so gung-ho about the movie they're trying to make. I totally get it. They have a character, they have all the assets in their scene, and then they immediately start animating their scene, or they start lighting and adding in effects and smoke and all this stuff. And basically, I think a huge beginner trap, maybe you've done this yourself, is just falling into creating a visual effects shot instead of creating a film. Who here has done that? Because I've spent years falling for this trap because I was super inspired by visual effects. I'm sure lots of you here are as well. We're here to make films. It's easy to follow the tutorial step by step, but it can be way harder to actually go out there and tell a story and create a film completely from scratch. So let's talk about how we can avoid this. So the problem that people have is they jump right into the visual effects side, the animation, the ending, like the polished part, instead of working on the film. They jump right into that animation and that visual effects. but it is a huge beginner's trap. What we need to do instead is not jump into visual effects. We actually need to take a step back. And this is the good part is it's actually way easier to make a first draft of your film than you ever thought possible. It'll all start to click here in just a second. We actually want to make the sequence first. We don't want to make visual effect shots. We don't want to make polished final visual effects well lit. I know we all want to do it, right? Like that's what everyone looks at, but we actually want to make the sequence first. So how do we do that in CG? How do we make a film instead of a visual effects shot if we don't have animation, right? Like this was the part in my brain that just never was clicking. Like I can't animate it, but I need to animate it because it's an animated film. But this is the lesson that I learned from this book from Pixar, actually. This is like, if we go all the way back to 1997, I read this book from Ed Catmull, which is one of the godfathers of modern day CGI. If you used Maya, you've heard his name before, I'm sure. But literally, he was the president of Pixar, and he also wrote a lot of the foundational code and the way shaders work in CG. But yeah, he broke down the process of how they made films at Pixar, because funny enough, it hasn't changed in over 25 years. It's evolved, but it hasn't changed. So what did they do on Toy Story at the very beginning that they still do today 25 years later? Like, what is the storytelling process? So the thing that they do differently is that as they're writing their story, they create a story reel. So Pixar, they only make animated films, right? So they always are, like, animation is so costly, it takes a lot of time. Before they jump into that, they're gonna work on pencil and paper, and they're gonna draw out their film shot by shot. They're not gonna spend any time animating it, they're just gonna draw the quick version, and then they're gonna assemble it into a reel or a sequence with music and sound. That's the only difference here between a storyboard and a story reel. And it's a huge difference because, again, we're making films. And you'll find that it's very easy to forget because a lot of us are probably visual effects artists first. Sound is half of the movie experience. And some could argue that it's even more. If you're playing an awesome song, it can get you in a mood faster than any visual can do. So music is such a huge component. And when we're talking about Pixar movies, we're talking about emotions. We're talking about families and friends and comedy. And we're trying to hit all these emotional moments with these lifeless CGI characters, or at least they could be if we're not intentional about writing that story in the first place. So an interesting thing is Pixar, the screenwriters write scripts, but no one reads scripts at Pixar. The only thing they review are story reels. So I think it's gonna be helpful just to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's the best way, just to peel back the curtain and see what an example is. And then I'm gonna show you how we can do this even easier. Don't worry, you don't need to be an artist here. You don't need to be an illustrator. You don't need to use pen and paper to do this. I'll show you a really cool way to do this in Unreal Engine and make your films faster than ever before. So the goal here is not to just make a comic strip. The goal is actually to make a sequence with video and sound. So this is where we're actually bringing the sound design before the visual effects, which might be a little backwards, but it's because it should be. We should be doing the sound and figure out the pace of our sequence before. And I'm saying, yes, this can be called animatics, cinematics, all these different things. There's lots of different terminology. They're all referring to the same thing here. Previs can mean the same exact thing, but we need to go through this step. We need to actually create a first draft of our film before we jump all the way in. So let's actually take a look here at this. This is a real story reel from Toy Story 3. So to tee up this story reel, just to let you know about this sequence. So this is actually sourced from Michael Arndt, who's literally the Oscar award-winning screenwriter of Toy Story 3, and he also wrote Little Miss Sunshine. He has a YouTube channel. Like, this is what I love about YouTube. I think that's why I just am going all in on it, and I'll bet my whole career on it, like, for real. Like, the future is happening on YouTube because people are realizing this is the place to share. He has an awesome channel with like 30,000 subscribers. You guys should go check it out. This is from his channel, but this is a sequence from Toy Story 3. If you remember back, Toy Story 3, it's all about Andy leaving off for college and the toys feeling abandoned. So this is in the second act. This is halfway through the film when Andy has already gone off to college. The toys are donated to a local daycare, And Woody's so excited, like, hey guys, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be what we always wanted. People are gonna play with us. It's gonna be great, right? And then we actually get to see when it's playtime for the first time, and it's not exactly what he thought. And their dreams come crashing down. So let's switch over to the clip and play through this. Let me know if the audio is working here.
They're here! They're finally here! Ah, I'm gonna be played with!
Rex?
New toys.
So that's pretty cool, right? At least that peels back the curtain so we can see how they're making that first draft. And what you'll notice there is they're trying to plan out all these comedic moments, which can be really hard to do in animated CG land, which can be a little bit slow, a little bit cumbersome. They're able to figure that out even at this early stage. They can plan out gags like putting Barbie's hair in blue paint and smearing it on the wall and bouncing on Woody, and it almost being a gag that only works with the sound there too. So that's the thing, we don't want to just not forget about sound. We want to embrace sound. We want to bring that forward because it can do a lot for your film, and it can overcompensate for worse visuals. It really can. Some people feel different ways about this, but a great soundtrack can make crappy visuals, palatable. Let's put it that way. But yeah. So then the next question is obviously, how can we do this in Unreal? So it's actually even easier than you might think. So we don't need to draw. We can just screenshot our viewport in Unreal and use that to make films. This has been a huge paradigm shift. Just write it down, I swear, just so you don't forget this. Don't worry about animating anything. Don't worry about moving your camera. Screenshot your viewport to make your first films. So this is what we did for the Godzilla project, is we were able to actually plot out all these different angles. Before I had music, before I had sound, we got to start from zero, right? So we got our models, I got Godzilla, I got the city, that's all placeholder. This is obviously pretty temp, but we just want to start blocking out the different shots in our scene. So we'll have the planes flying in from outside. We'll get close-ups of the plane. We'll see that him staring down at Godzilla, nearing closer. We'll get a close-up of the pilot. And again, we're just blocking this out. So there's no pilot character, but we can still start to feel what is the framing? What is the story that we're laying out here shot by shot without worrying about animation? And then we can have him swooping down and attacking Godzilla. And again, use your imagination a little bit. We're creatives here, so that's kind of the point here. Is we're just getting that first draft down so we can start to start adding more clay on top of it and keep building and refining from there. So we have him the plane swooping around, circling around Godzilla, and then him roaring out at the end. So very quickly, that was a first pass at seeing okay, what could this film be? I'm just trying to go around in a helicopter as I'm zooming around in Unreal. That's how I like to think of it. I always do try to make a parallel between what is the equivalent here of being on set. And in this case, it's literally like flying around in a private helicopter around Godzilla here. So this is the framework, guys. This is the thing to write down, screenshot, whatever you want to do. But this is how you storyboard inside of Unreal. Is first you're going to go through, you're going to set up your scene, you're going to screenshot your viewport. That's the obvious part. Step two is we're going to add those shots into your editing timeline, into Premiere, into Resolve, into Movie Maker. It really doesn't matter. You just got to get it into any editing timeline because we're just going to add in stills of these screenshots, and then we can also add in other clips from movies or things that inspire you. Like if you've ever seen a director's sizzle reel, there's some really great ones from Rian Johnson pitching Looper for the first time, if you've seen that movie. He just put other different footage of other TV shows, other movies into this reel. You can do the same thing in your storyboard. Again, we're just blocking out that first draft. We're trying to develop this idea, and we're not going to keep any of this. We're going to develop it and change it and evolve it, but at least it gets it into a timeline. We have something we can edit. We have something we can work on directly. And then we can add in the music and sound effects, and then we just continue to iterate. We continue to make it better and better. And once the timing works, and once we feel the rhythm of the sequence, and once we feel the music of cinema, I'm a little bit, I get passionate about it. But seriously, like when you see a Martin Scorsese movie, it's the music that's driving it from scene to scene. We can do the same thing in CGI, guys. Like we can do the same exact thing, and we can push our movies to the next level. And again, this is not the visual effects tutorial some of you probably thought you were showing up to. We're going to get to that. Don't worry. I have some really good stuff that we'll get into. But this is the stuff that's actually going to transform your movies, and your audience is going to feel the difference when you really put that first. Another key lesson for this stage that I want every single one of you to write down as well is pose, don't animate in this storyboard phase. So what do I mean by that? What does it mean to pose your characters, not animate them? Well, when we're trying to screenshot things, a lot of people have come back to me after I've read this, I've been trying to teach this concept a few times, and people have asked, okay, well, it's cool, but like, again, I feel like I need to animate it. How are people going to be able to know the story I'm telling if I'm not able to animate it? But the reality is you can tell a story with the pose. You don't need to animate. So to just drive this point home, let's look at a visual of this. Let's look at this visual of this still of Godzilla, stoic, looking down the street from afar, balanced, whatever you want to say, not chaotic, not under attack, versus this other shot of him cowering away and twisted and looking up at the sky. Even though these are still images, the audience and yourself as a person plotting out this sequence here, you're gonna be able to feel the difference. These have completely different emotions, and that's the point, is that we can tell a story with a single image like this as we're developing our film. So this was a huge paradigm shift, especially when you start to think big. I wanna make these big movies, I wanna make blockbusters, I wanna make kaiju fighting downtown in Hong Kong. Yes, we want to do that, but we want to start simple, we want to start small, we want to start basic in this way, because we're focusing on what matters, which is the timing between the cuts in your edit and the music behind it. That's really the takeaway here. Is that cool? Does that at least give you a little bit more insight on how you could actually yourself, you, not someone else, but literally you, start making a film? If you started screenshotting your viewport and putting this into an edit, like, do you think you could actually have a first draft of a film? I hope the answer is yes. Otherwise, like, we're wasting our time here, because guys, like this, if you take this to heart, I swear on this. After going through this process a couple times, if you went through this story reel process, this storyboarding process, and you did that 10 times versus making 10 films from scratch, a lot of people jump right into, I got to make a bunch of short films. I got to make these, whether it's 20 seconds or 3-minute films or music videos or whatever it is. They're trying to do these small projects to craft it all together. I swear, if you did 10 different storyboards, 10 different reels this way, you would be a better filmmaker by the end of it, because you've made more complete films. You've actually made sequences, not just one-off visual effect shots. And that's really the cool part of Unreal Engine, and why we're using it, why we're using that to push it to the next level, is because you can't do this in Maya, you can't do it in Blender. It's closer, you can get closer, you can make 30-second ads, but you can't make films with characters where you're actually doing all of this. Another quick thing here, just on story, before we move into the visual effects concepts, a huge thing just to keep us grounded, is a thing to remember, is everything in filmmaking to me is all about perspective. It's what point of view is this story being told from? And I think a lot of times with this Godzilla project, a really cool perspective is from the ground floor. It's from the street looking up at the sky. So that's really, that was one thing that after making that first story reel off of those screenshots, I went back and I was like, I'm actually missing some shots from the street level, from people running away. And again, super simple, one character in Godzilla, but in this still frame, you can see what the story's gonna be. You can start to imagine it, and it gets your brain running, and then you pair this up with some concrete crunching down beneath the street, and suddenly it starts to come together as a real film later on. So create a camera for every single angle, assemble your reel, start to edit it together. It's super easy to just screenshot it and throw that into Premiere. And I figured let's actually just show you what the previs look like for this short. So we'll roll this here. Obviously it is rough. It's always a little bit weird to show your early work, but I hope this is cool to see. So yeah, let's roll the clip. So that is the next step in the process there, is to go from screenshots and then start to block out those cameras and turn them into sequences. And then we can just start to upgrade and update every one of our shots now that the entire sequence is figured out. Does that make sense? Does that click with y'all? I'm seeing as well, yes, the recordings will be available later to anyone here watching live. We will have that all available. But yeah, that is my next question for you guys is like, can you take screenshots? Can you do it? Could you actually do this? Can we stop talking about it? Everyone loves talking about it. Can we actually do it? Can we like open up Unreal, download an environment, throw in some characters and start screenshotting our environments? So many people are just on the outside looking at all these cool short films being made in Unreal, but they're not actually doing it themselves. And this is how easy it can be to make that first film, is literally just starting to screenshot it, and you will be ahead of 90% of other people just by doing this, and you'll have a better film by the end of it. So hopefully we all think that we can make our first storyboard. That's the whole point here, is that we can do things differently next time. And I'm telling you this as well because, again, what you're not seeing here is the 2, 3, 5 years, if we go all the way back, of making films in Unreal, is how many attempts it can take to. Let me rephrase that. It's like you'd just be surprised how long it can take to just get to that first draft, and how, because we're all like going through different lanes, trying different following different tutorials, trying different advice, but this is the one thing to focus on, is do screenshots, and then we can make that first storyboard. Then once your edit is locked, we can add in all the cool details. So next chapter here, let's jump into some really awesome shortcuts for filmmaking in Unreal Engine, and how we can make films faster and easier using animation. So these are the 3 chapters here. We're gonna go through characters, we're gonna go through environments, and then lastly, we're gonna go through lights, cameras, and action. We're gonna talk about the explosions and effects and all that cool stuff. And cameras, which are super important. I'm sure lots of you too. It's just the natural progression is you somewhere along the line you go through Photoshop and photography or After Effects or somewhere along these lines, and all of the skills end up circling back. And we can use all of them. That's why I love Unreal so much. It's like this is the opportunity to use all the things we've been learning for the last 5, 10 plus years and actually apply it into your own films for once. So this is the question I also get all the time, is how do you actually make that animated film if you're not an animator? Yes, all of us can take screenshots, but how can you animate your films? How do we go to that next level? So the good news when going through this is that you don't have to be a character animator. I have a couple shortcuts on ways you can totally avoid that completely. But the bottom line is you do need characters to make a film. I talk about this all the time because I think this, again, these are like the things hidden in plain sight that no one actually does. Everyone knows this on a hypothetical level, but then everyone's Unreal Engine demo reel is just environments. It's just backgrounds and trees and forests, and that's all great. That's all, it's totally cool. I get that, but it's not a film. It's not. That's the hard truth. So we're here because we want to make films. We want to get to that next level, and we're going to need characters. So I want to show you a couple places, whether you're a complete beginner or whether you've been doing this a while. I know a lot of you guys are on that project 3 or 4, but I'm sure some of you that are silent in the chat are also beginners out there. So I want to give some resources for every single budget level out there on where we can download these projects. So resource number 1 is my favorite out there. If you're just starting out, you need awesome AAA level characters, but you're not a character modeler. You don't want to animate. You don't want to model characters. You don't want to worry about all the crazy stuff that gets involved when you start down the pipeline of characters, groom, physics, all this stuff. We don't have to do any of that if we download pre-existing characters. So Epic Games made a bunch of AAA high-quality characters available to everybody. All you have to do is go to the Epic Games Marketplace and type in Paragon, Paragon. And you'll see every single one of these assets that you're seeing here are free assets available right now on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. So you can get any of these different creatures. There's witches and warlocks and bears and cyborgs and all these different characters that you can just download right now and just drag and drop into your project after they go through. And you can even download environments from the Epic Games Marketplace as well. There's some really awesome free ones. Feel free to go back there. I left the names available. There's another great project file called the Slay environment, which is a great one if you just are at the very beginning and you want to jump in and start learning all this stuff and seeing what it's like. Slay is completely free and it's available today. I'm also seeing yeah, so that's where you can go through with all of the Paragon assets there. And then just to let you know though, not everyone has to use characters. I know it can be super intimidating to think of like, okay, crap, I need to like animate a run cycle though too, right? Like that can be pretty intimidating. I've been there as well. Again, I am not a character animator. I try to stick to my strengths and double down on those. But a way that I'm able to make more animated shots is by not using bipedal humans or animals, it's by using vehicles. So how I was able to do that in this project was by using this Bristol Bulldog model. So this is a World War II plane that we rigged up and we're able to animate it to follow through splines. And again, we're using 2 or 3 simple keyframes here to do some pretty dynamic animation. But if you really break it down, like how simple is that animation? It's just a plane swooping through at 3 different stages. So again, a lot of people overcomplicate this, but if you use planes or tanks or cars, things like that, vehicles, you're able to tell a story with these. You still are going to want to integrate characters, whether that's live action or I've seen too, you can use metahumans. I think metahumans are pretty advanced for complete beginners, but they're available and they're free, so that's all out there. But the cool part with filmmaking in Unreal, and the thing I want to focus on here, is the quick way to just get started and make some really awesome, fun, dynamic shots is by just taking your camera and parenting it, attaching it to this plane. So just like a GoPro or just like any sort of camera rig, we're just gonna literally staple it on or rig it on onto the side of the plane, and we'll keep that offset. But by parenting it to vehicles and then adding in those 2 keyframes of animation afterwards, we're able to really, really quickly get some cool dynamic shots that stay in frame it's kind of like a controlled chaos. We're able to look over the shoulder, over the pilot's shoulder here, looking out plane windows, looking out the window of a car, of a tank, anything like that. And we're able to literally, once it's attached to the plane, you can see here that we could, instead of rotating the camera, we could just rotate the plane itself. And we could lean into the fact that, yeah, it's literally a camera bolted on, just like in Dunkirk or like any other aerial type of shot. This is how they would have to shoot it in real life. And a lot of times we want to focus in on how would they really create this in real life. We don't want to just because we're in Unreal, we can put the camera anywhere, we can make any camera move. It's a beginner's trap as well, because you want to make sure it's something that could actually happen in real life. It could happen on a dolly, on a crane, or this could be a helicopter going around, or just behind that this plane. You have if you're shooting a helicopter shooting down Godzilla in real life, you'd have another helicopter behind them with a cameraman in the with the door open shooting the footage of this showdown. So that's what we want to recreate, is kind of go through that whole exercise and just make it again in Unreal. But yeah, parenting your cameras to your vehicles is a super great way to get started. And then you want to try to find other ways of humanizing your characters, having them throttle the cockpit, you know, like pushing down on the gas, flooring it, the pedal of a car, whatever it is. So we rigged up this plane in the Bristol Bulldog so you can change the speed and RPMs and the compass and all that stuff, so we could animate that. And we even just added in a simple Polaroid in the dash just to make it a little bit more of a human-based story as a fun little detail. But that's the sort of thing where we don't have to go crazy with our character animations. None of this requires anyone to be a, you know, senior level character animator, but we can still tell stories. And that's really what we're trying to focus on here, is what are the easy ways and some of the shortcuts that we all can take to tell bigger stories and play to the strengths of Unreal. Another cool example here is shooting out of the helicopter cockpit, just like it would be in real life. Like you would put the camera in another seat as you have the actor or the military man, whatever you want to say, shooting down Godzilla. We're doing the same exact thing. We're parenting the character to the helicopter. We're parenting the camera to the helicopter. And then literally we have this helicopter just flying through the air as this passes by. So we're recreating what it would really look like in real life from afar, and we're able to make it feel real. That's the whole point, is we're really thinking through what would it be like in real life? How can we imitate that inside of Unreal Engine? So yeah, putting your cameras and really thinking of whose perspective do we want to tell this story from, that's how you can get a little bit more creative. And again, we're using masks here. We're not getting close-ups of characters' faces and having them talk. It's one thing you'll notice here. That is a great shortcut for anyone who's making that first film. Eventually, you'll get into metahumans and motion capture and all that stuff. You can always build to that, but you don't need to overcomplicate this. We can tell awesome stories just like this, just like Irradiation, and make ones that feel huge, that feel bigger than anything else you normally see. So a huge thing, if you're new to Unreal, a really important thing to know here is everything that you animate. If you're gonna make a cinematic, if you're making visual effects, everything that you're gonna make is done inside of Sequencer. Sequencer is your timeline, just like your editing timeline if it's Premiere, although it's actually laid out extremely close to After Effects. For any of you After Effects users out there, it's gonna be super easy to start using. It's kind of like the perfect mix between After Effects and Maya. But you animate every single detail inside of Sequencer. So if we look at this shot here, the Godzilla was animated inside of Sequencer. The helicopters are animated is animated inside of Sequencer. The explosion lights, the sparks, the effects, everything is going to happen inside of your Sequencer timeline. And so this is me paused on a single frame. But yeah, every single thing is just animated in this one place. So it keeps it super simple and focused inside of Unreal. But how do we animate something like Godzilla? So I stepped in to make the first passive animation that you saw in the previs, but the way to animate inside of Unreal is using something called control rig. So if you have a control rig, you can animate your character, just like this dragon or just like Godzilla. You can very quickly animate everything inside of Unreal without leaving into another software. So a lot of people are like mixing together Maya and Blender and then importing it into Unreal. You can do that, like there's nothing evil about that, but you are wasting time is being wasted or lost by doing that instead of just doing everything right here in the viewport in real time all together. So that was the workflow we really embraced on this project, is how do we do everything right here in the viewport. And then I also, because like I said, I'm not a character animator, I got the previs together so I could block out my sequence. I could be the filmmaker. I plotted out that, but I did start working with another YouTuber, Watch Me Animate is his YouTube channel. If you want to put that in the chat, actually I'll type that in here. But his name is John Abenhaim. Hopefully that shows up. Or you can stop over at his channel. He stepped in to do some really great work and animate some of the cooler shots here with Godzilla. So let's take a look at some of the cooler ones that he put together. But yeah, he was able to, he had never used Unreal Engine prior to this. He'd used other software, but we were able to get him up to speed in just a single day. And he was able to start animating directly in Unreal because it's just like working in any other 3D software. It's practically identical to Maya if you've used that before, and it's super easy to pick up if you've used Blender or if you're just starting out. They do keep it pretty simple. The model itself was actually sourced from TurboSquid. So TurboSquid is a great resource if you're trying to find high quality 3D models. I showed you some cheaper places to get them or free models. This was a paid model on TurboSquid, which still saves you a ton of time. Like this is clearly days or weeks of work. Probably weeks to make a model of this quality, or you could just buy it for $100 on TurboSquid. That's a pretty good deal to me. So yeah, we got it there. It came with textures, it came with a rig, but then we created the control rig inside of Unreal. I actually partnered with another artist that I just came across on LinkedIn, Sanal, who was able to put the rig together in just 2 days because he'd made a bunch of rigs. He made a Starship Trooper rig in the past. But yeah, that's one thing that I think a lot of visual effects artists underestimate is, guys, we're in this together. And when you're on a film set, it's very easy to forget that you have like 50 different people on a film set. And the reason why is because you can't do everything yourself. You can't be the actor and hold the camera and record the sound and do everything else. Like, you actually do need roles. You need several people on set for filmmaking. It's not a bad thing. And I think when we start working on our own films at home, the other extreme can happen where you start to turn off anybody else who might be able to help. Like, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, I'm sure you're seeing demo reels of animators and CG artists on Twitter or all these different places. But when's the last time you actually reached out to another artist to have them work with you on your film? That is like the most underrated thing out there. I've done it every single year. I've worked on a personal project. I've reached out to other people. Most people will just work on your films for free. I now, like, the whole point I'm doing this is because I wanted to like support artists and have them working on cool projects. But for the longest time, like, if people are behind your project and there's a cool angle behind it and they believe in you, the filmmaker, then why wouldn't they want to work on it, you know? So yeah, that's been the coolest part. I'm seeing Ask, I've reached out to artists, but no one will work for free. I beg to differ, like, just because I've made so many films with people just volunteering their time, because another part of it too is you do have to sell your idea to people. It's not a bad thing. You have to make them interested. You have to pitch it just like you would in a boardroom, or just when you're, I feel like every time I'm trying to get someone interested in a project, you're pitching it again for the first time. Super quick story on this. I made a Last of Us film back in 2020. It was live action, it was an original story, but in the world of The Last of Us. And that had a final crew of 40 people. And I was the producer on that project, which means I crewed up every single person on that crew. Now, how do you do something like that? You have 40 conversations. You have 40 pitches, talking to one-on-one to people, getting them interested in their project, asking, like, and finding out, what do you want out of a project? Do you want to have a great demo reel? Do you want to show off this part of your skill set? What do you want out of this project? How can I help? Let's do it together. That's how we're all gonna make better films, because there's so many amazing senior level animators out there who are not experts at lighting or compositing or any of the effects. And again, we're all out here. We just need to come together a little bit closer. This is my one call out to the universe, because man, I swear everyone is one DM away or one email away. Anyone out there, you would be shocked by how many people, like, again, not everyone is going to say yes, but I find it's like 50-50, which is a pretty good rate, guys. But yeah, so let's jump back into this really quick, just to show you how we made the characters and the animations, and then we'll wrap this up with some Hollywood visual effects techniques that went into this. So just to keep going through, Jonathan Abenhaim animated Godzilla, and this is also how we animated the crowd, is not by placing a bunch of keyframes and being an animator myself. It was made using free rigs and free animations. I didn't have to rig anything. I didn't have to animate anything. This is a great shortcut for all you guys out there. We got the characters from Big, Medium, Small, and we got this asset pack out there that was the Tokyo Back Alleys asset pack, which is in the description if you're interested. So a really cool asset pack. But I took all these characters and I uploaded them to Mixamo. And what Mixamo does is it creates a rig completely for free, so you don't have to be a technical person. You can just animate your models from Blender, which is I just used to export them into Mixamo. Sorry, let's get the clip rolling here. So yeah, you rig your character for using their auto rig feature, which is super quick. It goes through, it generates this rig for free, and then you can use any of their 5,000 different animations in their library to create this crowd running away, about to be crushed and destroyed by Godzilla. So you have them like limping away, and we can download all of these and then import them into Unreal. And then once they're in Unreal, it's super easy to combine them inside a sequencer. So we'll basically take all these little clips, think of it in like a video game. You have attack animations, you have run animations, you have all these different types of animations. We can now stitch them together inside of sequencer. So this is what it looks like in our sequence here, we have all these different crowd characters, which again is just 2 or 3 characters duplicated and spread across all these different areas. And I'm just taking these animation clips that I got from Mixamo.com, and we're able to stitch 2 or 3 of these together. So we have this one of him turning around for the first time, and then we can attach this run animation right afterwards so that he's able to continue running. And if you ever just extend out any animation in sequencer, it'll just continue to loop forever, which is a really handy trick. So if we know he's going to loop forever, we can just make this super simple animation of him running forward. And just like that, in literally the 30 seconds it took for me to explain that, we're able to have a crowd character running past this car all in real time. And what's super cool is now once we have this, we have one set up, one is working, then we can take this character and we can duplicate it, and then we can offset the clip itself, just like a clip in an editing timeline, just like in Premiere or After Effects, and we're sliding it sooner or later. And again, now we have a second character, and it took us almost no time. So we can very quickly duplicate this many, many times. You do have to start adding a little bit more variation. If you have the same exact animation across 50 people, you're gonna be able to notice. But just by varying it up, having them run and stumble and trip and fall, and all these little changes in the animations, a little bit goes a long way. So if we fast forward to the end here, we can even have this one character who's falling back and diving out of the way. And yeah, just out of harm's reach from Godzilla about to crush him. And that's sort of the idea, is we can now sculpt this performance and try out some fun ideas without getting bogged down by becoming a character animator just to do all this. So yeah, we're just using the motion blending options here to stitch all of them together. It's a super great method, and one that's great. I haven't really seen how this is effortlessly done in Blender. There are ways to do this by chain ganging together lots of different offsets and animations, but I find it's just so easy to kind of import this and just get a bunch of animations up and running super, super fast. So this is what it looked like in the final shot. We had like 30 different characters animated in just a couple minutes there. But yeah, so that is vehicle and character animation simplified, just to give you that roadmap on how you can add characters and start telling stories that people actually care about, the stories that the audience can connect with, because we have characters with humans or vehicles to help tell those big stories. Is that pretty cool? And by the way, so this is, I'm trying to cram through a lot. That's why we're talking fast. And by the way, the recording will be available to anyone stopping through here. That Tokyo pack you can find down in the description. It's on bigmediumsmall.com. They make some really good assets. But yeah, so there you go. Now you have free resources to animate characters. You can go to mixamo.com for free rigs and free animations. You go to Paragon if you want to download some characters for Unreal Engine. That's the best way to do it. And yeah, hopefully that gives you a super clear breakdown on how we implemented characters and animation on this project. So that is the first part of our perfect filmmaking workflow. There we got characters. That's a huge part. But next, we need to design our sets. We need to build our environments. So let's talk about that next. By the way, is this clicking with you guys? Did you learn something new as we're going here? Trying to teach some stuff that most people aren't talking about. So this next section, if you've been waiting for some Unreal Engine tactics, you'll get some good ones here coming up. Otherwise, you'll just learn how to make some really complicated environments really, really fast with these cool cheat codes. But yeah, let's jump into it. How to build cinematic environments fast. So this is going to be trying to pass down some of the lessons that I learned working on Godzilla versus Kong. I learned a lot on this project. This was my first opportunity as a lead compositor on Hollywood film. So this was a pretty big moment for myself. And again, I really do mean it. That Godzilla 2014 movie made me want to work at MPC, and this movie was made at MPC with that crew. So what are some of the cool things that we distilled to make these complicated cities come true, or just look true to life? And more importantly, how can we do it in way less time and do it by doing it inside of Unreal Engine? That's the big question here. So how can we create our Tokyo City, Hong Kong set? I'm saying it interchangeably. Obviously, they are different, but yeah, it's the Tokyo asset pack. In my head, I've been thinking of the environments as Hong Kong. And in Godzilla versus Kong, the battle is in Hong Kong. I just said Kong a bunch of times. Anyway, so how do you build sets in Unreal? The quick, fast version for anyone who's brand new to Unreal, then you absolutely have to know that it comes with 20,000 free photorealistic assets with the Quixel library. So they're perfectly free to use on any commercial project. There's scans from real life, so they have a team dedicated to go out, capture real parts of the world. So this was another, this specific asset pack actually was from Japan, but they go all over the world to capture really good, high detailed models that you can literally click and drag into your own projects. So whenever I'm starting out with building out an environment, I always start with Quixel. It'll help save a lot of your time there. But like I said before, I leaned into that Tokyo back alley pack from Big, Medium, Small. This is all the different assets that came along with it. So as you can see, lots of different stuff to use here. Lots of things that will look good up close at the street level. Because for things to feel, if you want things like Godzilla to feel huge, you need small things like bike racks and signs and all that good stuff. You need things that are small for things to look big at the same time. So that's what we were able to use for this project. Again, yeah, not, you know, whatever. It's there's a link in the description there. But I always like to start from reference. So if I can go in real life, I'll go in real life. And in this case, I live in Montreal, so I literally went down to an area of the city called Chinatown, and I found an area that looked sort of like the environment I wanted to make at the same time of day as well. So we had some signs that were actually in with the right lettering, the same type of neon red, but also seeing what does it look like to have buildings lit up from below. You'll also notice that the brightest thing in these scenes right now, like, let's try to identify what's white in this frame right now, because that's going to be the brightest thing. So the things that are white and clipping out, the brightest things are actually the street lamps down here. So these yellow street lamps are white and bright, and it's also the office buildings. Like even far away, it's super white inside of those office buildings. So that's the thing that a lot of people miss when they're trying to make something complex like a city, is they'll put a bunch of lights down at the street level, but then all their buildings are like completely black, and no city looks like that. Like you'll never find a city at night that looks like that. So that's why it's super important to look at real reference and actually try to look at the real thing. And if you can be there in real life with your own eyes, man, that's the best. That's the best place you can be, especially with this where I was trying to see, I didn't want the night sky here to be black either. I wanted it to be blue, and you'll see why in a little bit here. And one of the big lessons I learned early on in my career at MPC, it was how I first learned about the difference between a good artist and a great artist. And another way to look at this is the difference between a junior level artist and a senior level artist. That was always my question when I started out, even when I went from being self-taught to starting in the industry. And I was, at the beginning, it was great because when you're at a visual effects studio working on these big shows, the first show I ever worked on was a movie called Alien Covenant. And when you start off, you can literally open up any shot on the entire movie, which is awesome when you're starting out because you can see what all the senior artists are doing. You can literally open it up and tear through their scripts and literally like take anything you want and copy and paste it into your own script. And that's pretty cool at the beginning because it feels like you're learning new techniques and you're using different nodes that you maybe didn't use before. But I found even if I just copied the scripts, like the project files of what these senior artists were creating, my work did not look as good as senior level artists. And it just drove me crazy because I'm like, dude, I just took the exact nodes. I know what nodes you're using and I'm using the same ones, but my work didn't look better. And it was driving me crazy because I thought it would always just be this technical answer. If I could copy the node setup that my work would look as good. But the reality is that you need to develop your artistic eye. You need to learn how to see. Senior level artists see the world differently. They literally see things that are invisible to you. So one of the things that was completely invisible to me at the start of Alien Covenant was the first lesson I learned from this dude Emilio, who I sat next to. I was like, dude, your shots look so good. I told him, I was like, dude, I didn't mean to, but I copied your script, but your stuff still looks way better. What's the difference? And he told me, dude, you need to stop worrying about the software. You need to learn the artistic techniques. And the number one technique you need to implement is adding depth into your shot. And why is depth important? So if we look at the shot of Hong Kong, there's atmosphere. There's literally fog particles in the air where we're stretching from the foreground by the ocean floor all the way into these deep background mountains. And depth, all we're doing here is we're trying to take a two-dimensional image, this 2D image, and we're trying to make it feel three-dimensional. We want to make it feel huge. We want to create depth from the foreground, from the, what's really close to the camera and what's super far away. And what's close to the camera moves really fast versus what's, far away from the camera moves very slow. So we need to start building depth into our environment, and we can do that with fog, with atmosphere, with volumetrics. All these mean the same thing. There's many different ways you can do it. I want to share how we created the fog on this project because it's super, super cool. This is how I actually did it on Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm using the same method, except we can do this in real time. So yeah, what I'm doing here is creating something called a glow card. So all I'm doing is taking that black and white mask, this really soft fall off, and I'm just mapping it to a color. So for this breakdown here, I just took that really soft, glowy fog fall off, that image, and I'm just making it orange and yellow. I'm just multiplying it yellow and orange, and I'm depth fading it between several city blocks. And very, very quickly, we can start to build up this haze and this atmosphere. And what that depth fade is doing is it's actually making it feel like it's spreading between several city blocks. It's actually, smoothly transitioning in between the building. There's no hard cutoffs here. It's literally fading in between the building. There'll be a couple good looks at this as well later. But very, very quickly, we can add a lot more color and life and a lot more just dynamic energy into this. And the hard part of making a city is you just need all of this. You need controlled chaos. Again, you need all of this randomness, but there needs to be the order of city streets. You need buildings that are roughly the same height, but you also need the street level down below to be very small and detailed and make it feel like there's these bright yellow streetlights at that street level. So that's the balance that we're making there. And by adding glow cards, again, just taking this simple image and multiplying it by a yellow or orange color, we're able to add depth into our shots. Another cool technique here is that instead of building a 3D model for every single part of our scene, we can save a ton of time and a bunch of effort, and our sequence will actually look better if we use matte paintings. So I did use some 3D models from Kitbash 3D to start building out a little bit more of the city itself. But especially when I was trying to compare my scene versus photos of Hong Kong, I was just thinking, man, there's so much more detail. There's so much more lights. Like, look at all the tiny little yellow office buildings everywhere. It's so much detail to add into my scene. Instead of trying to recreate all of this inside of Unreal, what if I just took this same exact image and I made it my background? Like, what if we just totally simplify all of this? What if I literally take an image and that is the entire background? That's this technique here. It's super underrated. Most people just don't think about it in the first place because it's not what a lot of people do in Unreal. But this is what we can do if we take some of those VFX Studio pipelines and apply it to Unreal Engine. Is we can just take these images, literally import them directly into Unreal. For those of you that are used to Unreal, all I'm doing here is I'm turning this into an unlit material so it matches the original intensity and brightness here. But we're not doing anything crazy or fancy. We're literally taking images from Unsplash or Flickr or any high-res image, and we're just placing it in the background. And then the whole game here is finding that perfect balance between hiding where the buildings start and the matte paintings end up. So you see, when I'm blocking this out, it feels pretty rough. You can really start to see the seam. But as I start to add and duplicate in some buildings to fill in the gaps, and I just have those streetlights poke through the sides of the buildings like you're seeing here. I'm just adding it in on the sides of the composition here, just to add in that little extra detail and to make it feel more photographic. Like, if you want your stuff to look more real, use real life photographs. That's the bottom line here. And so you can take it to the natural extreme, which is just using an actual photograph of a location, like we did here. And I did a similar thing to create those office buildings. So like I said, office buildings are super integral if you want to make a realistic city, which if you're making a cyberpunk city or you're making a city to get destroyed, it's all the same thing. You got to find a way to imitate these office buildings. So what I did here is I just took images of office buildings, and I use something called decals, which is something specific to Unreal. If you don't know what a decal is, just imagine in Call of Duty when you're shooting a wall, all the bullets show up on the wall. Those are just decals. They're little stickers that dynamically get added in the middle of your game. Well, we can do the same thing because we're using a game engine. So, but we can just create these decals, and instead of mapping an image of a bullet hole, we can put an image of an office building. And by plugging that image into the emissive input, we can literally have these cast light out into the environment. So they're acting just like real light sources if you build them in that exact way. And again, feel free to just pause. Like I left the script there so you can go back and pause for any of you that want to just like follow along directly. But yeah, very, very quickly, we can just copy and paste these and rotate them and scale them. And with a little bit of hand crafty work there, just like moving things around, making it look better, we can set that up over a building. And then we could take all those decals and literally copy and paste them, duplicate them over onto another building. So that's what we did here, is do the work once and just duplicate it. And very, very quickly, we can progress. We can apply this in really cool ways and save ourselves a bunch of time. That's really the thing to focus on here. Well, cool. Do you think you could use some of those techniques to help build some better environments? I hope the answer is yes. I hope there's a couple cool things. That glow card thing, you got to try it to really know how cool it is. I'll make some breakdowns that'll be coming to the YouTube channel shortly to really show why I'm so excited and why I get super psyched, because that was a huge change in how I create depth and how I create images. And it's something that you'll notice in every shot from your favorite movies is how they build depth. You really want to start applying that and look at images and start to look at them differently. See how other artists and cinematographers are able to create depth in their environments. We'll answer a couple questions here. Is it possible to go for a cartoony Pixar style from JC? So yeah, you totally can. Inside the Hollow, I think is the name of that stylized short that you could check out. They did some great behind the scenes. And actually that's what I'm planning to do, not the very next project, but towards the end of this year. That's what we're gonna do, is a stylized, it's probably more Spider-Verse than Pixar, but anyway, it's gonna be very stylized, more 2D shaded. But yeah, you can absolutely do cartoony Pixar style. It's really just how you model the actual assets in your 3D scene. Well, cool, y'all. Let's keep it jumping. Let's keep rocking and finish this out. So we got characters, we got environments. The last step here is lights, cameras, and action. How can we add explosive effects and make things look awesome using Niagara effects like these muzzle flashes here? So yeah, Niagara is the secret, but beyond that, a lot of the cool stuff here was not done inside of Unreal Engine. So I did use some Niagara here, but I actually want to show you some more valuable information, because there's lots of Niagara stuff out there. But the biggest problem I see with Niagara is a lot of Niagara systems, they're just using video game cheats to make, with the goal of creating photorealistic effects. So you can do this, but I think it's just always better if you can, instead of using the video game method for creating effects, I would prefer to either use real life stock footage first and foremost, or I would simulate it in another software. So I'm seeing people already, you can use Houdini for this. That's essentially how we did some of the explosions, is we got stock footage of Houdini renders, but you can get footage from anywhere. That's the real takeaway here. So let's dive in to how we can upgrade our renders and get that Hollywood level look. So I'm going to teach you some of these old school visual effects techniques that I've picked up over the years, and we'll kind of look at them through a new lens and look at how we can apply them to Unreal. So a lot of these shots were really taken to another level with compositing. So if we pause here, you'll see that there's a pretty big difference here between our Unreal render and our final shot. So we have lots of rain, atmosphere, effects, lens flares. We even added in some additional lights and things like that, which I can show you here in a second. These police lights, things like that. But we're able to layer all of these together in compositing. So if you're not aware of what compositing is just Photoshop, but for video. So instead of for a single image, you're doing it for a video clip. And you can use any, so I use Nuke for this. Nuke is a completely free software. It's free for your personal projects. It's paid if you use it for commercial work, but totally free on your own personal projects. So I would totally recommend it. You can render out in HD for everything. So great for anyone using Unreal. I actually wouldn't recommend rendering out in 4K if you're just starting out. That aside, but using Nuke, we're able to add real life stock footage of rain, of lens flares, of lens dirt. We're using photographic elements and combining them together in order to get that final photorealistic look. Rain, you can make rain inside of Unreal, but nothing is better than real life footage. Nothing is gonna look more real than the actual thing. So that's why I always prefer to use real life stock footage. To me, it's just a no-brainer. That's how you gotta progress here. But we can also add in explosions and sparks and even things like Godzilla's breath coming out of his mouth. Like, you might think that you need to do all this with Houdini, but we can actually just do all of it with stock footage. You can also do it with Houdini. If you guys know Houdini, you can just easily export this stuff in as well. But for those of you who don't, you're in luck as well. So let's walk through how we can add stock footage. So it's actually really easy to do this. The key thing here is if we want to add footage, stock footage into our 3D renders, we need some way to recreate that camera that was in our 3D render. So the best way to do that is to just right click on your camera in Unreal and just export it. It's super easy. It's like a one-click thing. You right click and you export it. And then I also rendered out some AOVs, some render settings here. Here are the two that I use every single time. I'm not gonna bother getting into it for the beginners out there because it will just be a little bit more confusing than it needs to be. But yeah, Fusion is also free. Seen out there, Diogo, Fusion's totally free. So you can use that as well for compositing. Blender also has its own compositor, which is free if you are just looking for something to use. But yeah, so you export your camera, and when you export that camera, we can recreate it in our compositing software inside of Nuke. So I'm using a node here called an image plane, which you just have to, if you just Google image plane, that's all I'm doing here. But basically you plug in your camera, you plug in your footage, and you decide how far away in depth do I want to place this element. So I'm trying to place it right below Godzilla's foot here. And then using my depth pass, I can basically crank the color grade on that depth pass. And what I'm doing here is I'm making everything that I want to cut out, everything in front of Godzilla's leg, I want that to be black. And everything behind that, I want it to be white. So that's all I'm trying to do here. And basically, this is what the final result will look like, is if we multiply those two together, which you can do in any of these softwares, that multiply node is in every single software here, we can quickly hide our stock footage in depth. We can layer it correctly in depth. So this is happening inside of Nuke for you guys asking. All this is happening inside of Nuke, and very quickly, we're able to recreate the camera. We can place it inside of depth, and we took this piece of stock footage, that's this Spark stock footage, and we just took this, and I'll run through that one more time because it went pretty quick. We were able to place that in depth. We're able to then recreate that camera move, which we're seeing here. And then again, we're remapping that depth pass to place it behind these different buildings. That's that three-step process that any of us can do. You can do this in any software. So you can do that in Resolve, you can do it in Fusion, After Effects, all this stuff. And then we don't have to stop there. We can also add smoke and dust and debris under Godzilla's feet as he's kicking up dust and creating chaos across the entire city. That's a really cool part. And by layering that up step by step, we're able to keep going there. I think there's another breakdown here of his breath that would be pretty cool. I also just grabbed an element of steam that we could place next to Godzilla's breath there. I guess I don't have the clip. I was looking back and forth there. But yeah, just bit by bit, layer by layer, we're just trying to match this real life footage. Oh, here we go. So we got the smoke underneath Godzilla. And then to take it even one step further, I also added in his breath. So again, this is just a puff of steam. That's what we're starting with. And then I grab my position pass of Godzilla. So I can kind of grab this 3D bubble around Godzilla's mouth. And I can literally use this to hold out Godzilla's mouth from that steam element. And very, very quickly, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's like 10 minutes putting that together. But if we build things in the right way and we mask things out using that depth pass and our position pass, we can make some really cool effects from simple stock footage. Is that cool? Is that hope? I don't know how many people out there are using compositing with their Unreal renders, but this is the missed opportunity, guys. This is how you can really start to have your work stand out and look better than every other person's Unreal renders, because no one is doing this. I do mean it. 90% of people skip over this step, and it makes all the difference. This is the step. You got to do it on Hollywood films. You got to do it on your Unreal renders. I mean, you only have to do it if you want your shots to look as good as a movie. That's all I'm saying. So if that's what you want to do, that's how we're going to do it. So this is another breakdown too, how we created all the different layers of the searchlights, and we separated out the lights, and we added in the Niagara rain, but then we also added in way more rain in the stock footage itself. Again, using that depth pass, using that to layer in the different stock footage close to camera, far away. And yeah, just trying to layer things to the real world scale. That's the other thing here that is kind of tying everything together, is everything feels true to life. It has the scale of the real world. Godzilla should feel huge compared to all these buildings, and the rain should also feel huge if it's close to camera. So that's what we're doing here. And for these explosions as well, it's just stock footage. It's just stock footage of explosions. That's the dirty secret, is it was not done in Unreal whatsoever, because Unreal is just not that great for generating simulations of explosions. Like, a lot of people are trying to get the final results inside of Unreal. I really wouldn't bother. I would find the best quality footage, whether that's from Houdini or from a real explosion that happened in real life, and composite them together. Make it look true to life, because we're using real world photography. That's the idea here. And then the last step is to add in the one-click compositing template. So if you've been around on my channel, this is the template that I use, which just takes all of the lens effects that I've created and I would use at a Hollywood visual effects studio. I turn it into one template with a few really easy to use sliders, so you can add in all of those Hollywood effects like lens flares and chromatic aberration and grain and vignetting and glow and diffusion and all that stuff, and get pretty complicated, and it needs to be completely perfect if you want it to look real. So that's the tough part here. So we condensed it all into the one-click template, and every shot in this sequence was ran through that template. Cool, so that is the step that 90% of visual effects artists skip over. So that is compositing. That is the step that maybe you've done it before, maybe you haven't. But if you want to elevate your renders, if you want them to look photoreal, you got to add real life footage into your renders with compositing. Hope you learned some really cool stuff there. I'm super passionate about compositing. It's how I started. I started in After Effects. That was the first software. I guess after Photoshop. It was Photoshop, then After Effects, and then diving into the fun world of 3D. And yeah, now that we are building environments, we're able to animate everything, we're able to do it all in real time. Now that I've started building with Unreal and making films in Unreal, I honestly I'm just not going back. And whether, you know, technology changes or whatever it is, real time, it's not going to get better than real time. So that's why I use Unreal. That's why it's so much fun to make these films inside of Unreal, because you can do crazy experiments like this incredibly fast. And a majority of these shots were created in less than 2 weeks. A lot of this was kind of finalizing the last 5-6 shots that we're kind of going big on our last shot. But yeah, this is a final look at all the shots put together. Godzilla raging down the streets, but yeah, all of these rendered in Unreal, built in the ways that you're seeing this. And I do feel like the cool part about this is I hope this feels like visual effects to me is a magic trick. It really is. Like if you know ILM, the studio behind Star Wars, it's industrial light and magic. I really do feel like it's a magic trick, and my dad was literally a magician, so maybe that's also why I think that. But hopefully now, we'll play this sequence one more time. Hopefully we can kind of see it, looking at it like a magician. You can see the tricks behind the magic, and we can kind of look at it in a new way. So let's watch through this one more time, just to start to see how this was made and how you could just replicate all of these different techniques. Like literally, there's nothing stopping you. I'm using all these assets are available to you, available to anyone. And I truly believe it. It's all about the artistic technique at a certain point. It's and developing your eye as a filmmaker, because if you follow this, we can do all the complex stuff really, really fast. So I hope you learned something new from there, because the bottom line for all of you here that started out not knowing Unreal, I'm sure that's lots of us here. The bottom line is, if you can create one shot, at the end of this, that means you can create an action scene, because all an action scene is a couple shots stitched together. Like, a lot of people overcomplicate this. If you can screenshot and you can convert that shot into some final visual effects, you can literally start making films inside of Unreal. And the coolest part, this is a super important part for anyone out there, is the only way to get hired is to build a demo reel that's better than everyone else. The demo reel is what gets you hired. It's not the degree. I did go to school. I was a college dropout out of film school. I didn't get hired because of the degree, obviously. And actually, most of the people that I went to school with never ended up working in the industry. So it was almost like the degree was completely irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was having a demo reel that stands out and says, hey, you can do great work. You can work on a team. You can take feedback, and you can bring an artistic vision to life. So that's what we're really trying to do here. That's why I love doing this, is so that all of us can make better demo reels and hopefully land that first dream job. Because if you can make a killer demo reel, that's all it takes. That's really the end goal here, is to make a demo reel so good that people can't help but hire you. So does everyone here think they can make better VFX and films, better than when we started? That's my hope. I hope everyone's saying yes. Put it in the chat. Put a thumbs up if you learned something new here. But yeah, my big question for you too is I know we went through a lot. I know some of you are beginners. The recording will be available, by the way. But I'm sure a lot of you feel a little bit overwhelmed. I know we went through a lot. I was talking really fast. We're going through a bunch of material. For any of you that want to learn Unreal, who want to go to the next step, but you've struggled learning Unreal in the past, you are not alone. In fact, the first time I learned Unreal, I gave up the first time. It wasn't until I had a job opportunity in my lap that I was like, okay, crap, I need to learn this once and for all. I really do need to learn that. Great to see all the thumbs up in there. That's awesome. But yeah, that was really what I was trying to understand, is how can I start working in studios? What is this skill set that the studios are working for? Whether it's making animated films, like so many films are getting made inside of Unreal. But also, like, this was where I was at when Unreal 5 first came out. It was like, man, look at all these crazy films getting made on set. And I saw The Mandalorian. I was like, man, I want to do the same thing. And it felt so far away. And I know a lot of people can struggle learning Unreal for the first time. So if you are overwhelmed, if you want a shortcut, if you don't want to do all of this alone and go completely self-taught, I would love to help guide you every step of the way. I've actually made a complete roadmap for someone, whether you're a complete beginner, whether you're 15 years old or you're 57 looking for that career change, wherever you're at on the spectrum. I wanted to make the one training once and for all that could take anyone from a complete beginner to an Unreal filmmaker in just 21 days. That was really my goal here. And the question is, a lot of people think, like, can a complete beginner really learn Unreal? Like, surely you have to have a background in coding or game development or something like that. But actually, I saw James Henry in the chat, I believe. If you're still here, James, I would love to, if you want to just shout yourself out. He was a student of Unreal Fundamentals. He was not such a technical guy. If I have the story right, started off as a film producer trying to learn Unreal just to get a better grasp for the software, for where filmmaking is going, but also just to make his own films. And he was not a technical game engine person. He started as a producer, more on the person-to-person communication, really great at that. And he was able to go basically into a brand new field using Unreal Engine. He's also worked with some really great students like Jonas Singh, who you might know as Zalushi. He's a YouTuber. He's got over 100,000 subscribers, makes some really great VR content, but he was able to start making his own films, his own cutscenes for his YouTube videos. You actually go to his channel and check it out. This was one of the things he made after finishing Unreal Fundamentals, which is our training for Unreal. And what you'll notice here with all of this work is that I'll show you what we cover, but students are able to come out of this making their own films, not just copying tutorials that we're teaching them. They're actually coming out of this with the skill of filmmaking, which that to me was like the daunting challenge at the start of this, is like, how can I actually make a course where everyone can use this to make films? But I've seen time and time again, people like Jonas, he said he knew next to nothing about Unreal Engine 5, but he was able to gain the skills to build scenes and render cinematics from scratch and do it in just 21 days. So I tried to reverse engineer the training so we're working efficiently. I don't want you to take 6 months to learn this stuff. I want you to learn it in as fast and as short of a time period as possible. So we really do want to condense that training down. We don't want to spend the 6 months and a year. It took me 2 years to really get to this point where I can finally understand everything together. And this is one of those problems with YouTube. And again, don't get me wrong, I love YouTube. I use YouTube as a resource. I try to contribute what I can here on YouTube. But the problem with YouTube videos is that everyone's trying to teach you the feature of the week. They're trying to tell you these 5 buttons that you can press in Unreal version 5.2.3 instead of teaching you the workflows, instead of telling you how all of this system works together for filmmaking. Again, you'll find lots of information out there on game engine, making games, making Fortnite games, all this stuff. But how do you actually make films, or how do you make virtual production environments and do it from the people that have actually created these for commercial works, not just, giving their opinion on it, but actually teaching what's working in the industry. So real quick, why artists fail when they're on this path of learning Unreal? It's really simple. A lot of people think their journey is going to look like this, where this learning curve is you learn a bunch right at the beginning and it's super simple later on. This is kind of how Photoshop can feel. I think for most people, or Canva, like, hey, you pick it up super fast. But the reality is with Unreal, most people experience it this way. They learn a little bit right at the beginning. They find 1 or 2 good tutorials that they can copy step by step the entire time. They follow along with that project. They make the exact same thing. But at the end of it, when they actually go to make that first film or make that first project, they're kind of stuck. They realize that, oh, I don't really, I learned what this person did. I can follow this one thing, but I don't have the skill of filmmaking. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to bring my own ideas to life. And this is where most people get stuck, is they learn a little bit, but they don't get that traction to make their first project. And they get stuck in this area called the Valley of Despair, where their work isn't where they wanted it to. It doesn't look as good as they would have hoped. It's frustrating to work in Unreal, and it just doesn't feel easy. And that's what we want. That's the power of real time, is once you know it, it's super easy, but it can be really hard to get there in the first place. And this is where people have it wrong. They actually have it backwards. A lot of people try to take what they already know about visual effects. Maybe you guys know something about Blender or Maya or Houdini. They're starting from VFX and they're applying all of these VFX techniques, but what they are skipping over is the game dev side of Unreal. And before we jump into it, you don't have to be an expert about game dev. You just have to understand how Unreal Engine is supposed to work in the first place, right? It's Unreal Engine. It's a game engine. It's not a render engine. It is a game engine first. And if we skip over it, we're only going to cause more frustration later. So this is where most people have it backwards. So if you want the easy curve, if you want the easy learning curve, it exists. It's out there. If I were to start over all over again, this is what I would do instead. I would learn all of the game dev stuff at the beginning, keep it simple, learn only what I have to know, and then jump into the visual effects, and it just becomes so much easier. Then you can apply what you already know, you understand how it plugs into Unreal, and it becomes really fun and really creative at the beginning of the process, not 6 weeks into learning Unreal. Again, most people they get 3 or 4 weeks in and it's just not fun yet. And then they give up in the middle. And I totally get it. We're all trying to get results fast. But that's the bottom line is we do need to learn how to use the game engine side to create films. And a really good way to illustrate this with making a film in Unreal Engine is what I just call the skill bridge. So there's all these little skills we have to learn, from blueprints to Niagara, from animation to materials. And that's on the game dev side. And then on the visual effects side, we also need to learn compositing, right? Like we need to learn how to take our shots to the next level. We need to learn rendering and lighting and the artistic techniques behind that. And again, we need both. Like we can't just have the game dev. We can't just have visual effects. And the reality is, if you are missing any of these skills, you can't cross over the bridge. Like this is where people get stuck, is they literally know 8 out of the 10 things, but they're missing 2 and the bridge crumbles underneath them. So all this to say, we need to learn game dev and visual effects together. That's what I felt really supercharged my experience. I was able to learn way more that first week being on set for Avatar: The Last Airbender, being next to people that have already done this, who've learned Unreal for what we're doing, and we're able to pass on that wisdom as I was learning it. And I learned more in that first week on set than 2 months of doing this by myself. And honestly, that's why I'm so passionate about putting this program together, is because I want to give people that experience. I want to give people that shortcut where in 1 week, you're like, oh dang, I could make a film already. And then if you keep sticking with it through week 2 and week 3, you'll only pile on top with new and additional skills. And first you'll learn the techniques, and then you'll pile on the creative side at the end and learn how to become a better filmmaker. So that's the goal, is really to unlock real-time rendering for everyone. It doesn't just have to be for the experts out there. So if all you needed was 30 minutes a day to get started, and learn Unreal Engine, would you want to sign up? That's my question for y'all, because that's what we try to do, is make it super easy, make it a no-brainer, make it super simple. I want to help you make those films and reach those career goals. Like, I've been in that same spot, and we're going to teach you everything you need to know along the way. All those techniques that have helped me achieve that, my dream job of working on Star Wars, working on Spider-Verse, all those artistic techniques, I want to teach you all the steps that we had, and it's kind of all in that training there. So let's jump into what's actually in here. I want to make sure that we can just break this down, go through all these slides. So this is what we're talking about. This is Unreal Fundamentals. This is how you can create your own action scenes in just 21 days. So this is it's a training series, but it's also every project file, every template, every cheat sheet I've ever created, ever needed in my filmmaking workflow. So all of the problems, literally every single one, has been solved for you. That was my entire goal starting out, is give you the render presets, give you my compositing settings, give you my materials, give you everything you would need to get started so we don't reinvent the wheel. We're using the techniques that already work in the industry today. That was the whole point with Unreal Fundamentals. And at the bottom line is to also teach filmmaking along the way, teach the on-set filmmaking techniques. So I made this short film, War of Being, earlier this year. And basically use that as a case study on how you can make your own films. So we take you from a complete beginner, we have you build different film sets, building different environments from films, from Batman, from Raya and the Last Dragon, and we keep building on top of it. And we basically show you all the different parts of Unreal and how you can harness them for filmmaking, all the way down to physics and explosions and color theory and really everything. It is a total filmmaking boot camp. It's all of the biggest lessons that I would have wanted to know, technically and artistically, starting out from zero. It's literally all in here. This is sort of like the last year's work compiled into one piece of training. So this is online and it's available. You can go through it's over 90 different video lessons at this point to make Unreal fast, fun, and easy. We've had a bunch of people that have already gone through it. Lots of cool testimonials on the site. James Henry, which I did note here, is there on the top right. I thought I saw your icon in there, so maybe he's not around anymore. But lots of great folks have already gone through this and started using Unreal Engine for their own freelance work, for their own jobs. They've gotten careers in Unreal Engine. Just had a student, Robert Cerruti, who just got hired on a virtual production team making environments. So yeah, people getting actual job placements in the industry, and leveraging all the techniques that they're using. Another story here is from Mark Jason, who again was not a technical person. He wanted to use Unreal Engine for his own music videos. He actually said he thought he could never understand anything in Unreal. That's where he started from. He honestly believed it wouldn't happen, but he was able to start building environments, and eventually, even after he wrote this, we were able to help him make some films. So it really does work at every skill level. And the bottom line here, though, is I did have two choices when I was making this. So a lot of courses out there, they're $40. They're there for 2 hours. They teach you a couple cool tricks, a couple tactics that you can use today, but then Unreal Engine updates and things look different. And in the end, you didn't really learn the fundamentals. You didn't learn how the engine works together. We didn't learn filmmaking. We just learned a couple tactics. So the point here is not to focus on the tactics. It's to dive in deep, teach you what you need to learn so you can learn it once and never again. Then we can just create all the times forward. So we went with not going the cheaper route. We went with making the one solution that's going to figure out everything, all the cheat sheets, all this good stuff, because it's actually going to work, because I've actually gone through it. I've learned it from scratch, and I don't want you to spin your wheels. I want to make sure you get all of the lessons you need in just 3 weeks. So that is Unreal Fundamentals, but I do want to blow your mind a little bit tonight. I want to give, I put together a special bundle just for you folks on the live stream here tonight. If you want some bonus goodies. So by the way, it's not going to be $597. I want to give you a better price than that. We want this to be the best deal I've ever done on the live stream here. So don't worry, it's not going to cost $597. But yeah, so this is all the skills that we need to learn though. If we want to learn Unreal, we have to pass over this skill bridge. And this was the big challenge I had, trying to come up with a solution that would work for everybody, is how can we make sure, whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, that you can just apply this right away in Unreal. So the way I did that is by packaging up all of my best resources. So these are some of the best templates I've ever made, and they're yours free if you sign up for Unreal Fundamentals. So the first one here is is actually our render presets. So we don't want to wait around for renders ever again. We want fast, real-time renders. So I went ahead and I just found out the absolute best render settings, like mathematically, I found the absolute best render settings, and I'm just gonna give you them. Like there's no more testing, there's no more messing around. You don't have to do any, testing yourself. I'm just gonna give you the right answers the first time so you can get the fastest render presets that exist for Unreal Engine. Like they are right here and they can be yours. Whether it's EXRs, whether it's Play Blast, whatever you need, we have fast ones, we have detailed ones, we have everything you need. And I update this when I learn new techniques. So I actually just updated this a month ago because I wanna make sure this is the stuff I'm using every single day. The same is true for the one-click compositing template. So when you're making sequences, you don't wanna spend all your time compositing all your shots. It's a great technique, but you can spend all your time compositing your shots. So a thing that I developed for this War of Being project, that Samurai project, was this one-click compositing template, so you can add all of those Hollywood lens effects in a single button click. So that's what you'll get if you want to, with this one-click compositing template. Here's a couple cool examples, but this is exactly what I use. Like there's not a different special one that I use and a different one that students get. It's like the same exact one. I use the one that's given away in the course, because I want you guys to have the very best out there. If you want to level up, like I'm here to help you get there. So you'll get literally the Hollywood standard. You'll get the same thing I would use as a compositing supervisor. This is the lens effects I apply to all my renders, and you can have the same exact template that you're seeing here. The same exact techniques that go into all these Hollywood visual effects shots. Another cool thing is the material cheat sheet, which just gives you all of the game, like a lot of people get lost through the game development side of Unreal. Again, this is here to just make all of the material stuff easy. We give you some awesome master materials. There's some 2 hours of training with this bonus cheat sheet to dive in deep and show you how to use it. And we did the same thing for materials and for blueprints. So we dive in deep with our materials cheat sheet, but we also have blueprints for beginners. So even if you're a complete beginner, you want to learn blueprints, you want to understand how this is supposed to work, we have an awesome framework and presentation that goes along with this, breaks down blueprints and shows you how to make artist-friendly tools inside of Unreal. So things like these sparks that are happening live in the viewport, these are blueprints, and they're things that you can make. Same with cloud cards, which I used in this awesome, this is from chapter 12, is that dogfight chapter in Unreal Fundamentals. And you can make some really cool things that will help you make better films using blueprints. So that's what we're gonna focus on, is not how to use blueprints for games. We're gonna show you how to use blueprints for filmmaking. So these are the cloud cards. We use them in this Dune project file to add depth and atmosphere. And yeah, we'll show you how to make those cloud cards, how to use them, and all this good stuff. But yeah, and also, if you want, as an extra bonus, just to make it even awesomer, that's not a word, I'll also give you this Dune project file. So if you want to sign up today, you'll also get that Dune project file from the Dune in 24 Hours Challenge. But we are missing this critical skill, and that is filmmaking. We want to learn all the technical stuff in Unreal, but the bottom line is the last 2 chapters are there to help you with filmmaking. This video is not playing, which is awesome. But yeah, this is chapter 11, where we show you how to make your own lightsaber battle with animations. I show you that Mixamo pipeline so you can make animations and you can make visual effect shots with characters and animations and build your own fight choreography with explosions and effects and all this cool stuff. This is basically everything crammed into one shot, so you can learn how to make some complex effects all in one place. And yeah, this is our student reel. This is some of the work that's come out after people have gone through the program. And again, you'll notice that people are not copying the lessons that we go through. People are actually inventing their own films. They're able to use this to create their own action scenes, their own war films, to use metahumans, and really start telling their own stories, complete with effects, and really holding everything at that Hollywood visual effects level. That's really, that to me was the most important thing, is that people are able to replicate that, identify the things that are in Hollywood level visual effects, and then recreate that inside of Unreal. And thankfully, at this point, we have had 500 other folks running through it. So that is Unreal Fundamentals. That is, that's the training. That is all the bonuses we talked about there. So the render presets, the one-click template, the material cheat sheet, the blueprints for beginners, all this crazy stuff. We want to over-deliver because, man, It took a very long time to learn this. I don't want you to reinvent the wheel. I just want to give you all the resources I wish I had from the very beginning. And yeah, it's going to be on sale for all you folks if you want to sign up in the next 48 hours, I guess until Sunday night. That is the complete roadmap. That will be inside of Unreal Fundamentals. You don't have to pay for the course or extra for the course or extra for all the crazy cheat sheets, all that stuff. But let's pile on the bonuses. Let's get through this. Because I want to also help you build that demo real fast. So some cool bonuses if you sign up today. I'm going to give you the plane that you might have seen in this breakdown, this Bristol Bulldog. It's fully rigged. It's ready to go. It's animation ready. And we actually use this plane in chapter 12 of Unreal Fundamentals. So we use this to create our own dogfight in Unreal. So if you ever want to make a plane battle inside of Unreal, now is the time. We'll show you how to make this. This is literally what we make in Unreal Fundamentals. This is chapter 12, what we're seeing right here. And you can, we'll walk through this. It's another 2-hour chapter, which goes through the entire vehicle animation framework, how to make cameras, how to add effects, how to add sparks, all this cool stuff. And that's like an additional chapter on top of everything else that we've seen here. And you can use that plane on any project. So you can use that plane on commercial projects, on your demo reel, whatever you want. Like that is now, as far as I'm concerned, that's now your asset to use on any cool project that you want. And like I said, that interior is fully rigged. So we have all the dials rigged, so you can even do interiors. Looks like the videos do not want to play anymore. That's cool. But yeah, so obviously we had to get someone to model that and texture that and rig that and all that cool stuff. Most of the time you are gonna have to end up paying hundreds of bucks for that on top of the training. But again, this is just a bonus chapter now in Unreal Fundamentals. Nothing extra if you wanna sign up today, but that is how much it would be if you wanted to actually get that yourself. And then, like I said, we're gonna include the Dune project file. So this is the environment, this is the ornithopters, this is the actual shot. So you'll get this exact shot with the timeline in Sequencer so that you can see exactly how I made this, and you could even start creating your own Dune action scenes using this project file. So if you've ever thought like, man, I'd love to like do a previs sequence for Dune 3 and invent your own world with it, now you can. You'll get the ornithopter, which is rigged already, you'll get the environment, and you'll get sequences. So you can jump right into the fun part of using that project. So yeah, you'll get a free download and you'll see exactly how I'm building that using the VFX Studio standards. That if I charge my day rate and what it would take just to build the environment, that's gonna start at $1,000. And then I literally went out, the person who made that ornithopter model, I paid him to take that model offline so that we could use it just for our course. So I had to go out and make that deal to make that happen. That was a few $1,000 just so that everyone can kind of use this on their own projects. So now it is yours. Now you have the ornithopter. That's a new thing with Unreal Fundamentals if you want to sign up and grab those Dune project files. And then lastly, I want to over deliver this. So not only are we going to give you Unreal Fundamentals and the project files and all this awesome stuff, and all the free project files and vehicles, I'm gonna give you a free course. So I have an additional course called the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass, which will take you from a beginner in Nuke all the way to teaching you everything. It's basically a 1-day boot camp for Nuke. So you can learn everything you need to know in just a single day, and you'll understand how Unreal and Nuke work together. We'll go through all the cool Unreal VFX techniques that I use every single day, so that you can learn the techniques that go into your favorite movies. So the bottom line is movie studios are not gonna use After Effects. If you wanna work at a visual effects studio, you have to learn Nuke. That's just the bottom line. Like that's the only software they're gonna use at these big studios. That was a big lesson I learned early on getting started in my career. So that's why we wanna teach you up, get you ready, teach you all the things you need to know, because we can really start to transform your renders. So we actually walk through how to make this exact shot. We walk through this Mr. Freeze shot. You'll get these renders and we'll give you the smoke elements. We'll teach you everything you need to know to go from raw, boring CG renders that look totally fake all the way to something that looks like it was shot through an anamorphic lens with photoreal stock footage and copying all those lens effects. So, and we'll even show you how to take your green screen footage, track a camera, and replace that background with Unreal. So I know a lot of people want to do this for music videos. A lot of people have requested this workflow. How can I take my green screen footage and combine it with Unreal? This is what we'll teach you in this masterclass, is how to do that entire workflow in Unreal. Yeah, this is a total bonus course. So for no additional cost, you'll get the Unreal to Nuke masterclass and all of these secrets. completely free if you sign up for Unreal Fundamentals today. So Howard Gersh is actually someone who went through the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. He's a former senior artist at Industrial Light and Magic. So this was a pretty cool testimonial to me, seeing it, that it's actually teaching some old dogs some new tricks. But he said he used Nuke in production, but his shots would have truly benefited from all the cool nuggets he learned in this masterclass. So I was even able to teach a couple things to the experienced folks out there. But even the beginners like Jean Denis said he came in knowing nothing about compositing, just the basics of Unreal. And it was packed with insights, and he was able to composite his own shots. So if you want to learn all of the cool techniques that go into your favorite films, that's what's in the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. And like I said, this is a complete bonus course, completely added on top, as well as access to our private Discord community. So if you want to sign up and get all these cool bonuses, you can get started right now. It's not going to cost you some crazy amount. Like I said, I started in film school. I paid a bunch of money. I didn't get any results. So I know how frustrating it can be to spend a lot of money and not get what you're looking for. Ultimately, I wanted to flip that on its head and give you to have you take the shortest amount of time possible and get you the most amount of value. So we'll get rid of all that camera gear. We don't need any more camera gear, no more lenses, no more rendering, none of that stuff. We can practice filmmaking for free, not for $5,000, not for $2,000, not for any of that crap, not for film school prices. But if you want to get started today, for just $397, you go to unrealforvfx.com/go. The lowest price it'll ever be, plus you get the free bonus course. So if you're looking, this is the absolute best time to get started. This is all the bonuses, everything you could possibly get all at once, just for you folks for sticking around to the end. I appreciate it. I know we're going late. I know it's late on a Thursday. So I wanted to make sure that that you guys are getting the very, very best out there. So that is unrealforvfx.com/go. And if you want, you can also get started for just $99. So we want to make this available to absolutely everyone. So we have a payment plan available. So if you're on the fence, you can get started for $99, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So the worst thing to me, this is my biggest fault early on, was I was tiptoeing around. Should I start on Unreal? Should I not? Is this the right thing to learn? And I kept on just wasting my time spinning my wheels instead of diving in and using it, learning it, using it for freelance projects, leveraging real-time rendering. This is the skill set that is really going to separate people in this next phase here. Is how are indie teams going to deliver these films that take on Hollywood visual effects studios? It's through using visual effects software the right way. It's through real-time rendering. It's through Unreal Engine. But yeah, just a couple questions we have. What do our students say? Louis Cha was also a complete beginner when he started out. He said he was able to get up and running in just 3 weeks, as just totally starting out, never using Unreal, never using 3D software. And Felipe Fenner, who had used After Effects and other software, he said he can now use, he can work faster and more focused as a director and 3D artist. We also had Jay Lee, who said it was easily the best Unreal 5 course out there, which was awesome to hear. And he'd recommend it to his friends in a heartbeat. And this is actually the shots that Jay Lee made at the end of his training here. So he actually made this in Unreal Engine right after he finished Unreal Fundamentals. So on week 4, this was what he was able to make. So he was sharing progress in the Discord the whole time. Was really awesome. We're also there to give you feedback and be there as a resource to help push your work forward. So I went through it quickly, but we have that private Discord, which is there for you, so you can get any answers, any of your questions answered as you're going, any troubleshooting along the way. But also it'll help you get creative feedback. That is, I think, the most underrated part of becoming a better visual effects artist, is getting great creative feedback. You need it from people that are ahead of you, not at your current level. So that's why I try to pop in there every single Wednesday and give some feedback to everyone there. But yeah, he's able to make some really cool stuff. And also Tom Davis, he's a character animator over at Sony ImageWorks. He took the course a few months ago and said it was super easy to understand compared to other Unreal training. And yeah, like I said, we've helped 500 other students just like you, and I would love nothing more than to help you shortcut your path and just get to becoming that filmmaker that you've always wanted to be, and get there a little bit faster using some of these project files, using these cheat sheets. It's really going to shortcut that time dramatically. And again, it took me a year to even begin feeling comfortable. and we'll get you there in just 3 weeks. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, put them up in the chat. I'll load everything up here. But yeah, that is unrealforvfx.com/go if you want to check that out. And this promotion will be running through the end of this weekend. So you still do have a couple days to decide, or until we run out of 50 seats, whichever happens first. We'll keep the live tally up there on that page on unrealforvfx.com/go. But yeah, this weekend will be your last chance to get started, to get all these bonuses, because we'll pull the Dune project file, we'll pull all that stuff, because we got some fun plans in the future that we need some of these goodies for. So yeah, if you want all this at once, this is going to be the best spot to do it. To get the Dune project file, get the ornithopters, get these planes, get all this stuff, get the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass, all this craziness for just $397 or $99 if you want to get started today. I'm also seeing Artem sign up. Thanks for joining, dude, and we'll see you in the Discord. Super excited to see you in there. That's awesome, man. Well, cool. If you guys have any last questions, we'll just run right back to Q&A. I'll pull up the chat, put it on the screen, and yeah, answer anything that you guys have at the end here. Let's do this full screen. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, just in general, to each and every one of you. I hope you learned something new and got something that you can take away from this and use in your own films. The bottom line here is, like, this program is not for everyone, so I totally get that as well. Timing's got to work, but yeah, it's just for the folks that are really looking to compress all that into a really short amount of time, and yeah, stop looking on the outside, actually be in the arena, start making your own films. So Van City R6, super cool to see you in there as well. But yeah, Azka, I'm about to get into Nuke. That's awesome, and yeah, Nuke is super great. I think a lot of people get frightened with Nuke because there is a high price tag that the studios pay. But if you're an independent person, you can download Nuke completely for free. There's Nuke X non-commercial. There's very few restrictions. So you can do green screen keying, you can track cameras, you can do all these crazy things that people just assume you can only do with the paid version. But you have the full, all the resources are there with the non-commercial version, and we'll show you how to use that in the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. So that's all available there. And R8 Ravinator, will the Godzilla film still be shown? Yeah, we could probably show you guys the final version. I think I have that rendered out. It's going to be a little bit weird. I haven't reviewed it, which is always a little bit, I don't always like doing that. But you know what? We're here. We're together. You guys stuck around to the end. We can. I'll give it 2 more minutes, but yeah, I'll load that up and we'll take one last look at everything together. And yeah, I'm just seeing BFU family, what is the recommended hardware for the courses? So yeah, I think the best rule of thumb, it's hard to give specific hardware. If you have a gaming PC though, Unreal Engine will run great. Like, it's designed for gaming PCs. So even as a developer, or someone making films, you do not need crazy hardware to get started. You can get started with what you have and start building slowly and methodically. We'll show you how to build efficiently in Unreal Fundamentals, so we don't overcomplicate your scenes. But yeah, we show you how to kind of troubleshoot that and use lower hardware at the beginning. But my recommendation would be, as you continue, if you're going 6 months into it, you've learned a lot, reward yourself and improve your hardware, and try to line it up where you do some freelance project for some protein powder or some product. You can do a product visualization. I think that's a great practical thing for someone if you're trying to get your first job with Unreal. You can't get hired to a studio. I would start making product visualization for brands. I think that's like a super untapped market. So many brands on Instagram and Facebook and all these other places need great product photos, and you can make that super quickly and awesome, make it look awesome in Unreal. So yeah, I would try to line up a project like that so you can use that budget to upgrade your hardware once you get those skills. That would be my recommendation. But yeah, Watermelon, that would be how, is create demo projects first and then send them out to brands, telling them that you'll do it for them. And I would, if I'm just starting out, I would literally make a complete commercial for free for someone, expecting zero money in return. Just make it as a calling card. If you make it awesome, they will 99% of the time, they will continue to hire you. If you actually make something that makes their brand better, they're gonna want more of it. So Yeah, that's how I would do it, is make a spec commercial with Unreal Engine, build up to that, keep it simple. Like I would say that I'm saying protein powders or like earbuds or headphones or shoes or something like that. Like make a commercial without characters. That would be my recommendation if you're looking to pick up some freelance work. That would be like the best way there. My voice is totally dying now too, so I think I'm gonna wrap things up. But let's take a look at the final short. And yeah, unrealforvfx.com/go is that link for anyone else looking to sign up tonight. Like I said, we're just running this over the weekend if you want to take a look. This is going to be the lowest price ever, and it will go away. We are not going to run this like a lot of times. I know it's the common thing on internet promotions to like run a discount and then you check it next week and it's the same price. We're not going to do that. This is only for those of you folks that are signing up here or that signed up for the masterclass and showed up live and are watching the replay. So yeah, get it for the lowest price ever. Now's the best time to do it. But without further ado, I think, guys, it's time to take a look at the final film. I say final film. I'm positive I will keep tweaking with this before I upload it tomorrow. So we'll say it's final V1, you know, final asterisk. But yeah, let's take a look at the finished film here. Let's tee this up and let's party. So there you go. That is a look at the final film. Let me know what you think. I saw it is a little bit laggy there. I was seeing that on the live stream too. It is a little bit laggy, so I'll be uploading this tomorrow. But that is a sneak peek at the final film. I'll probably just do a couple last VFX and sound tweaks. Can't quite let it go. It's always hard to do, but yeah, that is a look at the final film. We'll continue to break down this whole film in the coming weeks. This is a really cool shot that we'll dive in deep. Got a lot of cool behind the scenes videos planned and 2 behind the scenes videos that are literally completely done. So we got some really great stuff coming up where we'll dive even deeper and teach you some really great lessons from this film and how you can apply that Hollywood level look. But yeah, hope you guys learned something new. Hope this was a cool experience for all of y'all and you had some cool takeaways, learned something new. And yeah, we can kind of all walk away from this better filmmakers and with some new ideas on how to take our films further. So hope you guys learned something new. Really appreciate every one of you guys sticking around to the end. And if you want to do this yourself, sign up over at unrealforvfx.com/go. That's going to be the lowest price for the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass, the Unreal Fundamentals bundle, all at once. And can you just show videos of projects that will be in Unreal for VFX for last time? I'm just trying to understand what that means, Watermelon, but I love the name. I think what you are asking for is our student reel, so I will just play that really quick as we go into our good night here. But yeah, this is our student reel. But yeah, thanks Barry and Azka. Thanks for sticking around and checking it out. And then also I'm seeing a couple more signups over at Unreal for VFX. I just want to thank Brandon for signing up. Great to see you. Welcome aboard. And also Ryan Kelly. Welcome to Unreal Fundamentals. We'll see you in the Discord. And yeah, can't wait to see what you guys make by the end of it. We'll keep in touch and hope to give you guys some awesome feedback as we keep going in the next weeks here. So really excited to see what you guys can make, especially if you're brand new to Unreal. That's where it's always the most exciting because it's honestly a brand new adventure. So guys, watch a great movie or make one of your own. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night and yeah, we'll see you guys soon enough. If you miss this out, we'll send a replay link to everyone right after this so that you can watch this again on your own time or watch any section that you might have missed as we were going here. And yeah, we'll have that promotion running for the entire rest of the weekend. So you have until Sunday night. That'll be your last chance to get this for the lowest price ever. And again, we're actually going to run another masterclass next week, but this will not, this is the lowest price it will be. So if you're here now, it'll be $497 next week. That's a little tidbit for you. Just so you know, I told you here so that you have the best chance to get everything at the lowest price. So yeah, thanks y'all so much. Really excited to see what you think for the behind the scenes as it comes out next week as well. But really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking along, and we'll catch you next time. Peace, y'all.